by that time it's gone. But you know what irks me? Look, having nuclear, my uncle was a great professor and scientist and engineer, Dr. John Trump at MIT. Good genes, very good genes, okay? Very smart. The Wharton School of Finance, very good, very smart. You know, if you're a conservative Republican, if I were a liberal, if I ran as a liberal Democrat, they would say I'm one of the smartest people anywhere in the world. It's true. But when you're a conservative Republican, they try, do they do a number? That's why I always thought of, went to Wharton, was a good student, went there, did this, built the, I have to give my credentials all the time because we're at a little disadvantage. But you look at the nuclear deal, the thing that really bothers me, it would have been so easy, and it's not as important as these lives are. Nuclear is so powerful. My uncle explained that to me many, many years ago, the power, and that was 35 years ago. He would explain the power of what's going to happen, and he was right. Who would have thought? But when you look at what's going on with the 4 prisoners, now it used to be 3, now it's 4. But when it was 3, and even now, I would have said, it's all in the messenger. Fellas, and it is fellas because, they haven't figured that the women are smarter right now than the men, so, it's going to take them about another 150 years. But the Persians are great negotiators. The Iranians are great negotiators. So, and they just killed us. This is horrible. But I would have said at the beginning, fellas, you got to let our prisoners.
What was your goal on January 6th? What did you hope would happen?
Okay, so I was speaking. My goal primarily was to make a speech. And it was not a very, I think it was a relatively calm speech. Don't forget, I've had rallies that are massive. We never had any problems. We never had problems.
But what did you hope they would do when you said, go up there and stop this?
Well, I heard that people wanted to go down to, that wasn't my rally per se. There were a lot of people that spoke.
Yeah.
They had rallies the night before. They had speakers all over the city. You had hundreds of thousands of people. I would venture to say, I think it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. It went from that point, which is almost at the White House, to beyond the Washington Monument. It was, and wide. And,
but if you could have waited
and it was a loving crowd too, by the way. There was a lot of love. I've heard that from everybody. Many, many people have told me that was a loving crowd. And it was too bad. It was too bad that got that they did.
There were just some.
But my statement.
But Mr. President, I apologize. What we're trying to understand is not blame, not castigate.
No, I understand.
We want to understand, what did you want when you said go up there? What would you have dreamed
I would have
for
said
them to do?
that you will show not to go in, although they were ushered in by the police. I mean, in all fairness, the Capitol Police were ushering people in. The Capitol Police were very friendly. They were hugging and kissing. You don't see that. But there's plenty of tape on that too, because the Capitol Police that's the way it is. But personally what I wanted is what they wanted. They showed up just to show support, because I happen to believe the election was rigged at a level like nothing has ever been rigged before. There's tremendous proof. Statistically, it wasn't even possible that he won. I mean, things such as if you win Florida and Ohio and Iowa, there's never been a loss. There was a
And
loss.
did you need better lawyers? Because they took it to court, but they didn't
No,
give
I
enough
needed better
evidence to
judges.
convince the judges.
I needed better judges. The Supreme Court was afraid to take it. Don't forget, if you take all of everything out, take all of the dead people that voted, and there were thousands of them, by the way. We have lists of, obituaries, etc. If you take the illegal immigrants that voted, if you take the Indians that got paid to vote in different places, We had Indians getting paid to vote. Many, many different things. All election changing, not just, 12 people. I mean, all, because they were all very close. It's only in 5 places. If you take that, forget all of that. It's massive numbers, but forget all of that. If you take all of that, just look at one thing. The legislatures of the states did not approve all of the things that were done for those elections. And under the Constitution of the United States, they have to do that. And the Supreme Court, they didn't find fact. Don't forget, they didn't say, well, we disagree. They said, we're not going to hear the case. I'm very disappointed in the Supreme Court. Had Mike Pence had the courage to send it back to the legislatures, you would have had a different outcome, in my opinion.
Is that what you told him to do, the vice president?
I didn't tell him to do anything.
What did you want him to do? What did you
I
expect
thought
him to do?
that the election was rigged. I think that when you have more votes than you had voters, I think that the Vice President of the United States must protect the Constitution of the United States, right? And it says very, very clearly, protect the Constitution of the United States. I don't believe he's just supposed to be a statue who gets these votes from the states and immediately hands them over. And that's, if you see fraud, then I believe you have an obligation to do one of a number of things. Thomas Jefferson took the votes, okay, just so you know. You know that Thomas Jefferson was in the exact same position, but only one state, the state of Georgia. Did you know that?
We heard this was an example that John Eastman.
No, it's true.
No, yeah.
No. Hear ye, hear ye, was much more elegant in those days. There was hear ye. The great state of Georgia is unable to accurately count its votes. Thomas Jefferson said, "Are you sure?" They said, "Yes, we are sure." "Then we will take the votes from the great state of Georgia." He took them for him and the president. So I said, "Mike, you can be Thomas Jefferson, or you can be Mike Pence." And what happened is, and I had a very good relationship with Mike Pence, very good, but when you are handed these votes, and before you even start about the individual corruptions, the people, the this, the that, okay, all the different things that took place. When you are handed these votes and you know that the legislature of any one of those states did not approve those vast changes, hours, days, when the vote, it was all done by local politicians and local judges. Right there, you should have sent them back to the legislatures. And I could show you letters, I could show you letters from legislatures, they wanted them back. Those legislatures would have, in my opinion, had they got them, it would have been a much different story.
Who will your vice president be if you run again?
This is him.
Really? It's a good question.
Well, I was disappointed in Mike, but, I'll be making a decision at some point.
But not guaranteed
Now,
that
I will say this. Based on the polls, those polls are great. The Republican Party loves Trump. You saw that 97%.
But you're not locked in that you would run with Pence again.
No, I'm not locked into anything. I'm not
And
locked
what
in.
if he were? I mean, he could run against you in a primary. He wants to run for president too.
It's a free country, right? It's a free country. I always liked Mike. I was very disappointed, and so were a lot of Republicans very disappointed, because had he sent them back, had he been Thomas Jefferson, had he sent them back, which took courage, but not a lot of courage. What courage would have been is to do what Thomas Jefferson did. We're taking the votes. We could have done that too. But that would have been politically unacceptable. But sending it back to these legislatures who now know that bad things happen would have been very acceptable. And I think I could show you letters from legislatures
big scale letters from different states, the states we're talking about. Had he done that, I think it would have been a great thing for our country. I think it would have been a great thing for our country, and that's the way it is.
Why
So
didn't he do it?
I think he had bad advice.